Hey everyone, I'm Jefferson Graham. This is the video podcast edition of the Photo Walk Savannah episode. Of course, you saw the edited version with all the music and the sound bites and all the great photos. Here are the interviews. I met a lot of really interesting people when I was in Savannah, and I'd like to show you our complete conversation. We talked with Brittany Howard and Shannon Lowry from Visit Savannah. We met an outgoing real estate agent named Karen Carr who specializes in selling Savannah. And we stopped in to say hi to my friend Howard Paul, who is the CEO and president of Benedetto Guitars, which makes fine jazz guitars. And then he goes out every night and does jazz gigs. He's quite a guy. Shannon Lowry from Visit Savannah, who's been nice enough to visit with us here at Forsyth Park, the iconic place in Savannah, right?
Yep, this is the magic spot. Forsyth Park has been around for a couple hundred years, actually. It's been here since the mid-1800s. There's a lot of historic buildings around the park, but the park itself has been preserved as a green space. Obviously, they've made updates to it through the years and everything like that, but there is a huge effort to maintain this as a green space in the historic district of Savannah. So it's a really great place that locals come and take walks and walk dogs and ride bikes and play sports and go to concerts and do a little bit of everything.
And go rollerblading and do some really good rollerblading.
I've
seen them over there.
Yeah.
And paint. People are painting here.
Yep, so the SCAD Sidewalk Arts Festival is here every May, which is a really fantastic way for the students to do kind of a new medium, and they do these amazing, elaborate sidewalk chalk drawings, and then they rate them and score them, and they have winners, and there's different brackets and groups and stuff like that. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so the fountain. Is there a reason this fountain is so iconic? It's very European, right?
The fountain actually was ordered out of a catalog. So there are other fountains just like this. I believe there's one in Peru, and there's another one I think in Paris that's very similar. So it's actually not as unique as we would like to say, but it's still really beautiful. It's not quite the centerpiece of the park. It's a little bit situated north of the actual center of the park, but it's certainly the visual focal point of the park.
So basically they ordered it on Amazon and got 2-day shipping.
Pretty much, like I forget when it came here. I think it was the late 1800s. So it probably wasn't 2-day shipping back then, but pretty close.
But it was shipped. It came on a ship, right?
I doubt it wouldn't have been on airplanes.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's a riot.
Yeah.
Now,
the Bird Girl statue?
Yeah.
With the... Oh, that's in the Telfair Museum. That was in Bonaventure Cemetery, which is about 10-minute drive east of here. And the Bird Girl statue, I actually had the privilege of interviewing John Barrett, the author of the book, about a week ago. For our podcast that's coming out, which we're really excited about.
I forgot to mention you also have a podcast.
Yeah.
What's it called?
It's called Savannah, Georgia, Anything But Ordinary. But he was able to explain to me how they found that shot for the cover of the book, which they then, of course, Clint Eastwood used that as the final shot in the movie as well. That happened to be a local photographer here in Savannah that was commissioned to go and shoot the cover of the book, and he had gone out, and it was kind of the end of his first day, and he was in Bonaventure Cemetery, and he happened to capture that just at the very end of the day during golden hour, and they were able to have that be this really incredible, iconic image on the book. And so the statue itself ended up getting so many people who love the book and the movie, getting so many visitors to the statue that the family decided to move it, and they donated it to, at one point, I think it was in the Savannah History Museum, and now it's in the Telfair Museum, and people can visit it there.
And it's called the Telfair Museum?
That's the museum. Yep, the Telfair Academy is the official name of the Telfair Museum that it's in. It's the Classical Art Museum here in Savannah. It also is actually the first art museum in America started by a woman, and the first art museum in the South.
The great thing about hosting a podcast is you know these things.
Well, I knew these things long before we started the podcast, but it's part of the job at Visit Savannah is having to know a lot about the city.
How often do you do the episodes?
We're releasing about an episode every month right now.
What would you pick for your 3-5 top photo spots in Savannah?
Top photo spots in Savannah. I mean, obviously Forsyth Park is one of them. Bonaventure Cemetery is huge. With the Bird Girl statue and everything, there's really not many cemeteries in America that look like Bonaventure Cemetery. So that's definitely the second spot. And then my personal favorite is Hutchinson Island. I think that it gives you a really unique perspective of River Street by being across the river.
But we're going to go there tonight to shoot the skyline. That's the best place.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I think.
Just drive over to the Hyatt and park and look across?
Yeah, it's the Westin over there. Yeah,
Westin.
you can drive over there and park, but personally, I like to take the ferry across the river because it's free, and it's a really nice way to kind of get on a boat and cross the river and do something a little more fun than just driving across the bridge.
Okay, and they'll still operate at 7 and 8?
Yeah, they operate actually, I think, from 7 a.m. to midnight.
Oh, great.
And it runs every 20 minutes.
Okay, so free.
Yep.
All right, so for the fountain here, a lot of people like to take this picture. Do you have a favorite spot to photograph this fountain?
I think that from the west side of the park, shooting east is my personal favorite angle. And I think being here in the morning is the best time.
Yeah, what's it like to live here?
Amazing. It's awesome. I love it. It's home.
Are you born and bred?
No, I'm originally from the Pittsburgh area, but I've lived in Savannah for about seven years now. I mean, it's felt like home ever since I moved here, and I've always identified it as home since I've lived here. I hate leaving. Anytime I would go back to Pennsylvania and visit family for holidays and stuff like that, I was so excited to come back to Savannah. It really feels more like home, I think, than a lot of other cities that I've lived or been to.
And why?
Because the amazing people here, like I said, I mean, it's just the perfect size. There's things to do. You're never bored. There's such an amazing richness to the city because of the historic aspect of it. It's been so well preserved and so well maintained. The architecture, all of that, the city layout. And the big thing, too, about Savannah that I find so interesting is the urban design of it, which originally was done for strategic defense purposes with the squares and kind of, having every neighborhood able to kind of defend itself if there was some kind of an invader coming from the south into the city. And now that layout lends itself to a really incredible urban design that it's literally designed for user experience. You're meant to fall in love with it because there are these green spaces all over, and it makes it walkable, and it makes traffic a little bit less daunting, and all of those things. So it's an amazing pedestrian city, and because of that, you have amazing people who live here and enjoy it, and they value the community that they live in. They take care of the city. I think there's a really strong sense of pride in Savannah, of local Savannians and how people feel, and that's just something that permeates the whole city, and that's why I love it.
Now, I've done photo walk episodes many places, and there's always driving. You always have to, you can walk down the street, but you're going to have to get in the car.
Yeah.
Right? But here, it's photo walk with a capital P.
Yeah.
You start down at the river, Bull Street, walk up, and just explore the side streets and have a ball.
Yeah, I always tell people, we get a lot of questions if it's Savannah about what's the best way to get around, and I always say, just walk. Just get on 2 feet. You want to go as slow as possible in Savannah. The last thing you want to do is get in a vehicle. You want to stroll, and if you're not going to stroll, you can walk faster. If you're not going to do that, maybe get on a bike. If you're not going to do that, maybe, get in a slow-moving vehicle, like a trolley or something like that. And then the absolute last way that you want to see the city is from a car. Because it's too fast. You can't take everything in as you're going.
But you do have to drive to the cemetery. You can't walk there.
You can ride I've ridden a bike over there.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's an experienced rider ride, but it's not impossible. And you could walk. I mean, it's about 4 or 5 miles, so depends how active you're feeling that day.
Okay, Leopold's that has a very special ice cream parlor.
Yeah.
Why is that?
So Leopold's has been here for over 100 years. It's one of the oldest businesses in Savannah. And Stratton Leopold, in his amazing career in life and ventures, he was also a movie producer at one time. So there's this really awesome history of movies that he's been involved in that they have on display in Leopold's. And then it's such an iconic, old school ice cream parlor experience. You really feel like you step back in time there. And the service is always amazing. Their team is really great over there.
But what is it about the ice cream? There's always a line. Because?
People just love it. It's handmade. I mean, people love the hand-dipped ice cream and that it's homemade and everything like that. Yeah. Okay,
and the buildings, no other city, Binghamton doesn't look like this, Augusta doesn't look like this, Atlanta doesn't look like this,
right.
Tampa doesn't look like this.
Yeah.
What is it about this place that got these kind of buildings?
Well, most of Georgia was burned by Sherman, so Savannah is one of the only cities in Georgia that, has actual historic buildings that have survived the Civil War. So that's part of it. I mean, Atlanta's never going to look like here because it's all new construction. Most of the buildings here did fall into disrepair mid 20th century. You know, I think the historic preservation movement started officially in 1954. I believe it was right around in that time. But a lot of the buildings fell into disrepair, but there was a huge effort to, instead of demolishing them and reconstructing, to repair what was already here and kind of working from the foundations that we had.
But did Atlanta look like this before the Civil War?
I don't know. I didn't live there.
You
I
went
don't
around?
know.
Yeah.
I don't go that far north.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would assume everything probably looked pretty similar to here. It's pretty standard architecture for the time period. But Savannah certainly, because of the port being here, attracted a lot of money, a lot of merchants, a lot of popular businessmen and things like that. So we had architects here like William Jay and other people who were accommodating the customers that lived in Savannah. So we're lucky enough that we had these really notable people who were building these amazing historic homes, and now they're still here. So other cities like Macon or other places that are more landlocked or inbound or just weren't such didn't have the turnover of the port that helped us here with business and the economy and everything. They probably don't have the same luster that we have here with our architecture.
All right. Thank you for sitting down and talking to us.
I've been visiting since I was 10, and my mom wanted to officially retire here for years now. And so when I got the job at Miss Savannah, she took that as her opportunity to go ahead and just do it. Yep. But it's been great living here. Yeah.
Where were you before?
I was in Mississippi.
So how's it different here?
For one thing, I was from a very small town. It wasn't as much to do. It's always something to do here. Even when you don't want to do anything, it's always somewhere to go, someplace to walk. It wasn't like that back home. It was very rural, a lot of cotton fields, that kind of thing, yeah.
Okay. To somebody who hasn't been here before, why would you say they should come visit? What's here for them?
I would say opportunity, for sure. It's very artistic, and it's always, I guess, just something to do for everybody. It doesn't have to be art, it doesn't have to be food or anything like that. Sometimes it's just about just walking around and seeing the sights, learning about the history.
So take a weekend, come here, take a walk around.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's plenty of things that you can pack into a weekend. So yeah, I mean, that's what we would do a lot. When we would come and visit, it would be a long weekend, or it'd be a week, sometimes 2 weeks, when we knew we wanted to take our time. But yeah, you could definitely pack in a weekend, yeah.
So Karen, I understand you know a little bit about Savannah.
I do. I've been here, gosh, how long have I been here? Moved here in 2013 now.
Describe Savannah to the folks out there who've never been here.
It's a beachy town with a very laid-back vibe. It's kind of artsy because we have SCAD here, which is the Savannah College of Art and Design. It's historic, it's spooky, it's kind of like New Orleans, how it's got that haunted vibe to it. Tons of seafood, affordable. It's a great place. I've lived all over the country, and this is probably the favorite place I've ever been.
Okay, so the pro would be picturesque, amazing, visually. The con would be the humidity.
Yes, as we've been walking around, I keep going, oh my goodness, it is so hot. And it's the end of September. The humidity is definitely no joke. You do start to get used to it after a while, but even so, it's still pretty darn warm.
Okay, but they do have air conditioning, and that saves it.
We have air conditioning.
We were going to eat outside, but we chose to eat inside.
We did.
Right.
And lots of neighborhoods have pools, lots of people have a pool in their backyard, and of course we have the ocean. So I always say, if you can tolerate the humidity over the summer, the rest of the year is beautiful.
Well, you lived in Atlanta before coming here, and you chose to make the trek. It's an interesting place because it's rather isolated compared to a big city like Atlanta, which has the world's largest airport, right? Or at least the United States' largest airport.
Yeah.
But you're far away. So what made you decide, I'm going to go down there even though I can't get around as easily?
Well, my husband was transferred to Atlanta, and we said, all right, let's give it a shot and see what we think. I liked that there's lots to do there. You've got mountains, which is great. I miss the ocean. I really miss the ocean. I've been landlocked for a very long time, a major portion of my life, and I just love being by the ocean. So when they said, can we transfer you back to the Savannah area, we're like, yes, please. And I love it because of the seafood that's here. We don't really get that in Atlanta. Even though it's the same state and it's not that far away, you just don't have the same thing. Whereas here, I can be driving home, there will be a guy set up on the side of the road with oysters that he caught that morning. That'll be, I don't know, $1 a piece or something ridiculous. You just get a bag of oysters, you can get 2 or 3 pounds of shrimp that they caught that day, and come home and say, hey honey, guess what we're having for dinner tonight? And it was the same price as if you'd gone to Applebee's with the family. It's crazy that we have this plethora of seafood anytime we want it, freshly caught, usually within the last 24 hours. It's amazing.
Describe the historic homes.
Oh, some of these homes are amazing. They are, I think the oldest home in Savannah is around 300 years old. The majority of the houses in the historic district are at least 100 to 120 years old. They're the tall and skinny kind. They have beautiful ornate woodwork in there, like the mantle around the fireplace is to die for. The ceiling medallions around the chandeliers are great. But with a house that age comes a whole lot of upkeep, and you want to have to replace all of the electricity and all of the plumbing and the roof and all of that kind of stuff.
Well,
so
we like coming here and taking pictures of them.
that is right.
But on a shopping expedition, what is one of those homes going for?
It depends on where exactly, but I would say probably 300, 400, 500 for a regular house, and then of course you can go well above $1 million to get one that's
But
just
the
like a
historic district would be the $1 million?
Yeah, probably so.
Okay, but if you could live there one night, you would take it, right?
They are amazing. They're gorgeous, yeah.
Okay, spooky. I see that put in a lot of the brochures. What's that all about?
They say that Savannah is the most haunted city in the world, or sorry, in the United States. Should I start over again? So they say that Savannah is the most haunted city in the U.S. I always thought that New Orleans would be, but apparently Savannah is even more so. And if you take any of the tours around town, you learn why. I guess back when they had the yellow fever epidemic, people were dying left and right, and they didn't know what to do with them because it was during the summer when it was really hot and humid, and they didn't have anywhere to store these bodies, so they just buried them under the streets. So the entire downtown Savannah area is apparently built on top of mass graves, which makes it kind of spooky, and anybody who really believes in that stuff will tell you all kinds of ghost sighting stories that they've seen.
Well, the CVS that you mentioned is on top of many dead bodies,
Yeah,
right?
it's across the street from the square where they are, yes.
Talk about the squares. You have
There-
what, 22 of them?
I think there's 22 if I remember correctly. It's kind of a nuisance when you're driving, only because you're driving along and then you have to go around the square and it's a one-way only. But they sure are beautiful, and it's an interesting way to break up this downtown area with lots of green space. You know, you get grass
very
and you have
European,
trees.
right.
Yeah. It's very different from, like, I've lived in a lot of cities, and Savannah's very, very different architecturally from
You
most
think it's
of
different
them.
from Salt Lake City?
Very much so.
You think so? huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I would agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, Salt Lake is so much newer.
And Napa, very different
Yes,
from Napa.
different from Napa too.
But this is your favorite place you've ever lived?
I think it is.
Yeah? Okay. So I want to hear all about your
Oh,
youth.
you got egg or something right there.
Thank you. You mean I have egg on
Or
my
rice.
face? I have egg on my face?
Literally.
I messed up?
That's better.
Okay.
Cutting into your arm.
I want to hear all about your YouTube channel. First of
Okay.
all, what's it called?
It's called Georgia Coast Homes.
Georgia Coast Homes. How many videos do you have up?
Oh my gosh. It's probably around 300 right now.
300 videos. You've done 300 videos on Savannah in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And different ways to slice and dice why you should come visit Savannah. I know you've also done one on how to edit video on iMovie. And what else have you done 300 in your 300 repertoire?
It was funny, when I started the channel, it was after I had recently moved here. I'd been in real estate for a long time, but I was new to the area and nobody knew me. So I was thinking, okay, how am I going to get people to know that I'm here and I'm available to help them buy and sell houses? So I started the YouTube channel, just talking about things you need to know about Savannah, what's it like to live here. If you're being transferred here for a job and you've never been here before, what's it like? Where should you live? And it was stuff like that. And the channel just really started to explode after about 6 months. Then I got to the point where I had so many clients that were finding me on YouTube that I couldn't handle it all myself, and I had to form a team. So now we're a team of seven licensed agents. We cover Hilton Head, Savannah. We have one person in Atlanta and one person in Augusta, Georgia. So we're trying to just cover this whole little area and helping people that are relocating to the area that just don't know much about it. Then I started getting tons of phone calls from other real estate agents saying, is this working for you? Like, you keep doing it. It must be successful. Will you teach me how? So now I'm really a real estate coach, and I teach other real estate agents how to have a YouTube channel that brings them business. So on that channel, yes, I do more tutorials about gear and talking head versus vlog style, and how do you have a great call to action at the end. And it's more of the logistics of having a successful YouTube
So
channel.
how many total views do you have right now?
I have over 1 million on the agent channel, and I think I have about 800,000 on the Georgia Coast Homes
Okay,
channel.
so 2 million.
Yeah,
All right,
pretty
nearly
close.
to 1 million.
Yeah.
And subscribers?
I have 12,000 subscribers
Very
on the
good.
Georgia Coast Homes, and about 11,000 on the agent channel.
And how often do you do new videos?
On the agent channel, I just do one a week.
Yeah.
On the Georgia Coast Homes channel, because we have so many agents now and we are all making videos for that channel, we're up to 2, sometimes even 3 a week.
And a lot of that is showing off new homes.
Not really.
No?
Not
It's just
honestly,
new,
no.
yeah. Neighborhoods. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when we have a listing for sale, we definitely do a video about it. We show off the house, but those are the least viewed videos on the channel.
Most viewed is what?
Most viewed is the pros and cons of living in Savannah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, with the vagaries of YouTube is weird. Let's see, what's my most viewed? It was Pismo Beach. I think it's Pismo Beach or Riverside.
Okay.
Two places that people don't go to a lot.
Riverside, that surprises me.
Very surprising.
I would think it'd
But
be
it-
a much more well-known
Right, LA,
touristy
Big
area.
Sur,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
But it's one of those places that the algorithm found it.
Ah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have set days and times for
Yes.
the new video? Okay, what are the times?
So on the Georgia Coast Homes channel, and this is so funny because Monday morning at 9 a.m. probably the worst time to publish because people are just getting to work. They're sitting down at their desk. I hope they're not just watching YouTube videos, but back in the day, that was the day and time that I chose, and so I've just stuck with it ever since. And then the second video drops on Thursday morning, same time. On my agent's channel, it is Friday afternoons at 3.
Oh, 3 o'clock, okay.
Just because it's kind of the end of the work week, agents are starting to wind down. They have a little bit more free time because usually they're just running around with their head cut off all day. And so I figured Friday, and then that kind of rolls into Saturday morning. They wake up on Saturday morning, have a cup of coffee, watch the latest video.
I'm thinking this Thursday, 5 o'clock. What do you think?
Thursday, 5 o'clock works for me.
It's a weekend sort of thing. Rolls you into the weekend.
There you go.
But my 5 is your 8.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
So maybe I should run it in the afternoon.
It's okay. You can drop
Yeah.
it whenever you
Okay.
like.
Do you do premieres? Do you go on there and talk?
You know, I haven't really tried premieres yet. I figured I needed a larger following in order to
Yeah.
do that, and I never have.
Yeah. And do you do the live streams?
Not so much on the Georgia Coast Homes channel. We've done 3 or 4, and I think the most people we ever had watch live was like 30. We get a lot more views on the replay than on it live. However, on the agent channel, I do a lot of promotion that I'm going to teach you all about whatever it is. I email it out to my database, I post in my Facebook group, and those are usually much better attended, so I do quite a few of those on that channel.
Okay. I think I should back up and remind everybody that you are a trained opera singer who wanted to be on Broadway
Yes?
and fell into real estate.
Yes.
And has lived in New York, Connecticut, Salt Lake City, Napa, California, and Savannah. Did I get that all right?
And Pennsylvania and Michigan and South Carolina.
But has chosen Savannah as her favorite.
Yeah.
And I say the word Savannah to you, and what comes to your mind?
The ocean.
The ocean. I think the homes.
Yep.
I think the historic homes
They're beautiful.
and the fountains.
And the cobblestone
I mean,
street.
let's go through the photo highlights. Give me
Yeah.
5. 5 photo highlights.
Places to visit to take photos of.
Yeah.
Okay, one's got to be Wormslow Plantation. It's a very famous shot of this long driveway where the trees grow up and over, and it makes a tunnel. Stunning. Everybody's got to see that. The fountain at Forsyth Park. Too bad you're not here over St. Patrick's Day because they put green food coloring in it, and then it's green. Beautiful. You see it on all the postcards. Absolutely. River Street would be my third. They've got, so it's a street right along the river. We've got giant cargo container ships coming down. We've got the big bridge that leads over to South Carolina. Those are the oldest buildings in town. So if you go across the river and look back at the skyline, you're looking at buildings that are
And
300 years old.
how do I get across the river?
There's a free ferry that goes
good.
across. Yep, there's a little ferry that goes about
So
every 20 minutes.
that's my activity tomorrow night at 7:30,
There
right?
you go.
Right?
Yeah. Take the ferry across
Okay,
to
so that-
Hutchinson Island,
that's 4.
and then
Okay.
you can get the whole skyline, you know, at the golden
Yeah,
hour
right,
when the
yeah.
lighting would be so
Right,
beautiful.
yeah.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Hey, can I fly my drone from there too?
Can you fly your drone?
Okay, so number
Probably.
5 is what?
Oh, let's see. The lighthouse out at Tybee Island. So if you go out to the ocean, there's a big long pier that sticks out into the water. There's a lighthouse. It's very scenic.
So if I drive there tomorrow morning, bright and early,
That'd be beautiful.
it'll take me a half hour?
Not even.
Not even.
Yeah.
Okay. So before, now first of all, we're at a noodle restaurant.
We are.
We chose this noodle restaurant because you're a noodle freak. You love noodles.
I am.
And,
As are you,
and
apparently.
Yes, and it was very welcoming, and they let us sit here and talk, which is fantastic. We're going to go to the world's famous ice cream parlor.
Leopold's.
Yes,
Yes.
Tell everybody about that.
It is the ice cream spot in Savannah. I believe it's the oldest, handmade, amazing flavors. Like when you come to Savannah, you kind of have to go
Okay,
to
so we'll
Leopold's.
go there. But before we do, anything you'd like to ask me? I've stumped her.
So how did you stumble upon the gear setup that you're using now? Because you're a professional photographer. You could
Yes, I
use
am.
a lot more high-end, fancy stuff.
That's right.
And yet you're using stuff that I use. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at your setup and it's very similar to what I use, and I am not a pro photographer. So how did you decide that this was the best setup
Because
for you?
this show is aimed at the masses, and I don't want anybody to feel they have to go out and spend thousands of dollars worth of gear when they've got an amazing camera in their pocket.
I love
so
that.
I want to prove that everything they're doing, everything I do, you can do really easily. The only expensive thing I have are microphones.
Okay.
So $300 for the mics.
And I always tell people that people that are watching videos, they're much more forgiving of not so great video quality,
But
but they're
not
not
audio.
a bad audio, right?
Right.
So interesting.
You could not do what we're doing with the microphone over there.
That is correct.
It just couldn't happen. I have watched real estate videos where I've seen a guy just sitting there like this, and you don't hear anything he's saying.
No, you can't tell.
Yeah, and I wrote him a note and I said, you're selling a house for millions of dollars. Can I interest you in maybe investing in a microphone?
Especially something that's not that big of an investment. I mean,
Right.
truly, if you are using this as a way to generate business, it's a business expense. You gotta suck it up and get some good equipment.
Yeah,
But
and a little tripod helps too.
Yes.
So right now we're on a tripod, which is a tabletop tripod that I think sells for $15, and then I have a little extension pole that's like $20. And
bad
then
at
I
all.
have the iPhone holder, which is another $20.
Okay,
Yeah,
not bad at all.
yeah. And you can hand hold it for a few minutes, but not for the extended period that we've been doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
interesting.
So that's my answer.
All right.
Good answer?
That's a good answer. I like
All
it.
right. Is it time for some amazing ice cream?
I think it's time for
What's your flavor going to be today, do you think?
praline.
Praline.
Yes.
Okay.
Pralines in Savannah are also kind of a thing, so they're so good.
I saw
So
they had
good.
Stuckey's pralines at the Thunderbird. Did you see?
I saw them hanging
Yeah.
behind the desk, yeah.
Yeah, for somebody who's lived as many places as you must remember Stuckey's at the side of the road.
It's been a long time, but yes.
I know. All right, to the ice cream parlor.
To the ice cream.
High-end jazz guitar manufacturer in Savannah, Georgia. Put those two together, how does that happen?
I
Because
was
this is not exactly the market, if you think of Savannah, this would be not the primary market for high-end jazz guitars.
true.
Would it be?
Yeah, no, it would not be. Although we do sell a few in town, shockingly. I think you can build these instruments anywhere you can attract great builders, and the wood is not coming from anywhere locally anyway. I was living here because I was assigned here in the military, met my wife, decided to stay and settle here. And during that time period, I met Bob Benedetto, started playing his guitars, became a sort of a minor Benedetto artist of his. And then in 2006, he asked me if I would be his business partner. And my wife said, sure you will, but you're not leaving Savannah.
Okay.
So that's why we're here in Savannah, because this is a great place to live. I convinced Bob that it was a great place to live, and we've convinced all these really talented people.
At the time, he lived in New York?
Now, at the time, Bob had just moved from East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, back to Florida, where he now lives. He moved to Tampa area, and the guitars at that point were being made under license by Fender at their custom shop in Corona, California. So Bob was living in Tampa and flying to Corona, California 1 week a month to supervise manufacturing, all by hand. And it was a marriage that was just destined not to last. And so about 6 years into that marriage, Bob approached me, and we were good friends at that point, and I was a customer of his. And he said, what do you think about helping me take back the brand and building our own company together?
And then you said, fine, as long as it's here.
As long as it's here. And actually, I gave him an option to pick a couple of different cities. He really wanted to be in Nashville. So I did an economic development tour in Nashville, Birmingham, Atlanta, and Savannah, across that southern tier. And I kind of stacked the economic development deck when we arrived in Savannah. And we wined and dined Bob, and by the time we finished lunch, he said, oh, this is such a wonderful place. This is where I want the factory.
Now, why did your wife want Savannah? Why did you stay in Savannah so badly?
She's an attorney. She is the first and still only female partner in the history of a 120-year-old law firm, and she did not want to have to start that process again.
Okay.
So she wasn't going to take a bar exam somewhere else and pick up and move.
What is it about Savannah that you love?
I love everything about this town. It has the cultural diversity and charm of a big city with a major art school, lovely museums, a pretty thriving music scene. But there are only, maybe 160,000 people, and so I know all of them. I know the mayor. I know the last 3 or 4 mayors. I know the bankers and the city councilmen and the architects and the musicians and the club owners, and so it's a small enough town to get really involved in the community, but it's got a very cosmopolitan feel for a little town in the deep south.
Yet, I love everything you said about it, but it is far away. It's not easy to get to other places, and it gets really hot in the summer.
Yeah, it's really easy to get to other places because it's a small, very accessible airport.
Okay. So you just flew to Napa last week.
I just flew to Napa, so I flew.
How many planes did it take you to get to Napa?
On the way out there, it took 2 flights. You have to fly through Atlanta to get just about anywhere, but I had a 5:30 a.m. flight, and I woke up at 4 o'clock, and I left my house at 4:35, and I got to the airport, got through security, and was waiting in line to get on a plane before they boarded the first seat. So you can't do that in any other major market. It's 2 hours at least if you live in Atlanta to get to the airport in Atlanta and get on an airplane.
So as long as you can connect to Atlanta, you can get anywhere.
As long as you can connect to Atlanta, you can get anywhere, and it's right on the ocean. So there's a lovely boating community and life here. The entire downtown is a historic preservation area, so it feels a little bit like living in Europe. It's got a fabulous food scene that's growing. It's got the largest art school, certainly in the country, maybe in the world, with about 6,000 or 7,000 art students. So there are galleries and restored buildings and artists kind of everywhere. and it's got the third largest container port in the United States. So it's got a thriving economy, and it's got industries like Gulfstream jets are built here, and JCB heavy equipment is built here. So that it's not. It's a very tourist-driven scene, but it's not a tourist economy. It's a very art-driven scene, but it's not an enormous city with major competition for art galleries and museums. And it's a thriving music scene, but there are no music schools here, so the professional musicians aren't competing.
I think you have more live jazz here than you have in LA.
Yeah, maybe so.
And I say here being Hilton Head
Right,
as well.
right, and it's and nothing is more than in downtown Savannah, nothing's more than 20 minutes away.
Do you ever go up to Atlanta to do gigs?
Very rarely, because there aren't a lot of gigs in Atlanta, and there's a lot of competition in Atlanta for the gigs that are available. So every now and then I'll go up there and do something. But I travel to New York to do gigs a couple times a year. I'm in Northern California 10 times a year. I'm in Southern California a couple times a year, and I'll go to other cities to lecture. I do a lecture on the history and architecture of jazz guitar. I'll do recitals with faculty. We'll play at jazz clubs and concert halls. So I travel quite a bit to play, but when I'm not traveling, I'm working 4 nights a week here, which is pretty amazing. And it's not New York gigs. It's not $50 for a gig and $65 for parking. They're pretty good paying gigs, and the places that we play treat the musicians really well because there are so few of us, and we're pretty well behaved, I think. And the audiences really seem to engage. So it's a lot going on here.
How many guitars come out of the shop?
About 100 a year.
100 a year.
Yeah, maybe I'm working up to 120, but I'm a little short of help right now.
And jazz guitars are still selling?
They're still selling, yeah. And right now, if you ordered one, it would take 10 to 12 months to get it.
Back to Savannah. Photo ops, man.
Yeah.
What do you think the best, where would you recommend folks, what are your top spots?
Well,
Because I've been doing the greatest hits.
yeah, I
while I
mean,
was here.
one of the things I really liked about Savannah is I love heavy industry in historic settings. And so you have this beautiful river walk that's hundreds of years old that at one point was, maybe the busiest cotton port in the Southeast. So ships would come in loaded with ballast and drop the ballast on the streets and then load up with cotton and take off. So all the streets are kind of paved with not paving stones, but ballast stones. So you have this wonderful history of that whole cotton factor's walk where the wagons used to come under in between the buildings, under these bridges, and they would bid on cotton, and they'd take the wagons out to the wharf and load up. And you have that still kind of in place, but with these super Pan-X, post-Pan-X container ships, 1,200 feet long, 100 yards away coming through the river as you're standing in an area that's, several hundred years old and hasn't really changed in character. So the opportunity to see both of those things in one place, I think, is pretty
Okay, so the
pretty
riverfront.
cool. So the riverfront area, there's some really beautiful cemeteries here that are quite old. Bonaventure,
Yeah,
of
we've
course,
got
all
to
the
get there.
trees are covered with live oak, and these are live oak trees covered with Spanish moss is really beautiful. The architecture of all the homes is really lovely. You can walk through all these parks. There are squares every couple of blocks, and they're all kind of unique, and they're all surrounded by historic homes. So I think that's really lovely. And then, of course, there are some really beautiful beach communities near here, or river communities. Palmetto Bluff, right on the other side of the Savannah River, is a really stunning resort community. And Tybee Island is kind of a throwback to the 1950s in a lot of ways, with a great beach community. And then just the city life. You have all these Savannah College of Art and Design buildings,
Yeah.
and all these young kids with their tattoos and
And pink hair.
and pink hair, and piercings, and they're, you know, walking alongside stodgy Savannah lawyers that are, you know, still wearing suits in the middle of the summer as they come out of court.
I bought a suit and I brought it down here, but I couldn't put it on.
Yeah.
It's a little hot.
Yeah, it's a bit hot for a suit.
Now, when you look up Benedetto Guitars, I believe it says Benedetto Guitars Savannah. I think that's what it says every
Right.
time, right?
Probably.
So you're like really proud of that.
Oh,
that you're here,
absolutely.
right?
And the city of Savannah is really proud of having us here. When they do red carpet tours for the Savannah Economic Development Authority, CEDA, and they're trying to lure big manufacturers to come into Savannah to build their factories, they'll take them to Gulfstream and show them where the most expensive business jets in the world are built. They'll take them to Savannah College of Art and Design and show them you know, the 3D printing that goes on in conjunction with you know, big manufacturing, but brought down to an artistic level. They'll take them on a tour of the port, which is a fabulously busy port, and I'll bring them to Benedetto Guitars so they can say, hey, we even attract the best artisans in the world to this little town. And so we're really proud to be included in that whenever the city wants to show off their businesses, they consider us to be a gem in this community. And we wouldn't have that if we were in Nashville or Atlanta or Birmingham.
You'd just be another.
We'd be another tiny little manufacturer. I mean, we employ 10 people, and we make 100 instruments, most of which aren't sold here. And we're in a nondescript building, and so we're not the kind of things that most cities would point to when they're bragging.
You're in a section of Savannah that, when I think Savannah, this is not what comes to my mind, because I
No,
think
this
of
is
historic building.
this is the commercial south side of town.
I assume the historic district be a little more expensive.
Yeah, and they wanted us in the historic business. I got some incredible offers to build in old steel warehouses or brick warehouses where they wanted us to put a factory and then a glass wall so people could come tour through and watch us building these instruments. But that's really distracting from building a great instrument. You know, maybe if you're, I don't know, if you're making something that's not a very expensive project, that's fine. But for something that's a piece of art,
You got to be bland to do it.
I think
do your
so.
art,
I
yeah.
think so. You don't want distractions.
My brother over here has a hot tub, and he said, "Why didn't you get one?" I said, "There goes my productivity." Right? I'll never do anything again.
That's
right?
probably true.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, what was I going to ask you about? Oh, so if somebody's going to come to town and visit, what would Howard's weekend be?
There's some really great restaurants here that are all pretty unique, and so I send out my list of favorite gourmet restaurants, favorite casual restaurants, best lunch places, brunch places. So food's going to be involved in everything. And then there are some really amazing rooftop bars and basement bars around town. And so drinking is probably going to be involved. And then there's a lot of music around town. And so I'm going to try and steer people towards whatever music.
So let's name a rooftop bar.
I play every Sunday at a place called the Myrtle and Rose, lovely rooftop bar in the New Plant Riverside District Hotel, which is a JW Marriott that's built in what used to be an electric power plant.
That's by the bridge.
That's by the bridge. And then at the other end of the river, there's the brand new, just opened in the last month, the Thompson Hotel, with an even higher rooftop bar right at the bend of the river. Maybe we'll go there for a cocktail after this, because I haven't been there to have a drink yet. And that has a fabulous vista and a really beautiful architecture. And then the Perry Lane in Midtown is another rooftop bar where you're sitting in the middle of the city next to the cathedral, and you can look down on all the rooftops.
And photo-wise, those are great places to go to get your shots when you're not flying your drone.
That's true.
And they may not like you flying your drone, but they'd like you being a customer.
Yeah, and it's a challenge flying a drone around here. I'll warn you, because the reason I was stationed here is because Hunter Army Airfield is located in Savannah, about less than a mile from where we are right now, and that's where the 1st of the 75th Ranger Battalion and the 1st of the 160th Special Operations Aviation Unit is. So they don't like a lot of drones near here.
I almost flew it over Forsyth Park this morning, But I was there at 5:30 in the morning. I figured nobody was going to care.
You could probably get away with that.
Yeah.
But once you get up to 100 feet around, you can hear the helicopters flying over, even from in here.
I wouldn't go that high.
Yeah.
Last question, Howard. You're obviously really good at running a company,
I don't know about that.
but I think you are, and you're really good at playing the guitar. And I don't think you're probably like me, and you don't sleep. But you do both of those, and it takes up so much time. I'm sure at some point somebody says, Howard, do one or the other. What do you think?
Yeah, I couldn't do one or the other. And everybody that I know that has an enjoyable life spends 8 hours of it at work and then another 8 hours of it doing something they like. Whether it's biking or boating or photography or
watching TV.
Or watching TV or playing golf or whatever it is. My time is spent doing what I love during the day, which is preserving. I don't think of this as a big profitable company that I'm trying to grow, because I'm not trying to grow it. I want it to be self-sustaining. I'm trying to preserve the art of making these instruments, and that's a love. And playing guitar, there's nothing I would rather be doing than playing these lovely instruments that we've preserved. So
there's your evenings.
So there's my evenings, and do I do other things? Yeah, I enjoy good meals with friends and drinking wine and expensive tequilas when my wife will let me buy it, and a good Cuban cigar. And so there are a lot of things in life. They all involve people, and most of those people either have something to do with the music industry or they're professional musicians themselves.
All right, well, I want to thank you to having us here, and we should probably just close out on one more little tune.
Sure.
What would be your favorite song? What are some of your favorite tunes you like to play?
Well, I love playing a lot of Johnny Mercer stuff.
Right, I figured.
But I hear the opening chord of All the Things You Are.
Yeah, well, I just threw it out there.
So let's play that one.
Oh, okay. Well,
1, 2, 3, 4.
Thanks for watching the podcast. If you haven't caught it, please watch our Photo Walk Savannah episode, youtube.com/PhotoWalksTV. We have a lot of cool other photo walks there and some great episodes coming up for season 2. Thanks again for watching.